Hey everybody, how y'all feeling out there? I'm Greg Aalvik, and this is the Double A Show. Today on the Double A Show, Greg will be discussing how to reset our mind from where we are to where we want to be. This show will help you get rid of some of the horribly destructive things we learned in church, and at the same time setting ourselves up to have more spiritual success. So fasten your seatbelts, put your trays in the upright position, and prepare for takeoff of the Double A Show with your pilot, Greg Aalvik. When you discuss in the Bible, only if you know the beginning can you know the ending. Someone told me that a long time ago, and it's rang true. And that's why, if you've been following the Double A Show for a while, we went back and looked at some things in the beginning. We re-looked at some Adam and Eve story, and we've realigned and adjusted our point of view on and perspective. We started looking at it a little differently because we want to make sure that we don't screw up early, because we're going to carry that with us all the way through. We're painting a picture, and by the time we get to the end, every brush stroke we put on our canvas needs to make sense and fit in and have a harmonious, beautiful picture when we're done, not some screwed up, jacked up mess of splotchiness that's hard to understand or even consider. And a lot of us live with that kind of an idea. I want to point out something, though. Paul gave us permission because he said there's a first Adam and a last Adam, and the last Adam is Jesus, and the first Adam is Adam. And I want to ask you, just one of those questions to put on your shelf, where did Paul get permission? What part of the Bible? Was there verses in the Bible that we missed? That's kind of an interesting one. It's an honest question. I just want you to ask yourself, where was the biblical, spiritual permission for Paul to make that association? Anyway, we're learning more of the symbolism as we go along, and we're letting the Bible itself paint a picture for us. So do you understand that everything that we're doing in life has to do with this painting, this mental image you have that's going on in your mind? That's your belief system. It's a picture, and your faith is based on that picture that has been painted. And your faith is a mental image, okay? It's the substance of what you hope for. You can't hope for something that's fuzzy. You can't hope for something that you don't really see clearly. You can only hope for something that you see. It's not right here in front of you. You see it in the image in your mind. And it's your worldview as well. It's part of that painting. Your religious faith is painted in this picture and put together. All these things are put together in your mind. And if somebody comes along and paints on your canvas or tears away some of your canvas, all it does is screw with your picture. It's messing up your faith. It's screwing up your worldview, your perception. Everyone can say, perception is reality. Our perception is our reality, right? I mean, we say that. World says that. It's true. That's your perception. So what are your senses? Your eyes, ears, nose, mouth, skin, right? I would say also the sixth sense, your intuition is part of that comes into your perception. And we try to translate what comes in, what the input is. We're translating, trying to understand it. Imagine you smell smoke, and you're sitting here in the house, and your brain registers the smoke, and it goes, smoke usually means there's fire. And so you go, wow, I better go figure out where the smoke is coming from in case there's a fire I need to put out, right? And so you're going to go down and chase around trying to find out where in the hell this smoke is coming from, because it's important, because fire and house usually don't go well together. And I mean, they do. Fire loves a house, right? Because it feeds its fuel, and it will just take it. But you ain't going to have nowhere to live. So the combo isn't good for you. So therefore, there's a sense of urgency to figure out where's this smoke smell coming from. See the way this all worked? That came through your perception. You didn't see it yet. Maybe you go down and you start seeing smoke, and you try to find where it originates from, where it's coming out of. Is it coming out? And you think of all the things that typically smoke. Let's check the fireplace. Let's check the toaster. Let's check the oven. You know, that's what we do. Putting out the fire. That's what we're thinking. Trying to preserve our life. We're looking for coherence, right? It needs to fit into our picture that we already have going on. So we try to do that. And 99.999% of the time, everything always fits perfectly. That smell makes sense. This vision like this. Lights make sense. All the different things that we're seeing, feeling, hearing are making sense to us. And we let it come in, and we don't have to mess with it. We can just let it come in, and automatically it harmonizes with our picture, right? It's awesome. When it comes to the Bible, though, and religious things, spiritual beliefs, it gets really muddy. It gets really messy because lots of stuff don't fit. It really don't. And I'm going to tell you, especially if you grew up in a normal church, it don't fit. They're not. There's just no synchronicity. You know, there's nothing's really fitting right, but we're just letting it happen, and we're getting used to it. That's the point, right? And that's what most of us go through, because we're not the pastor. We're just in the pew, sitting there listening, letting people paint on our canvas. And they're telling us it's this, and they're telling us it's that. And we're just letting that paint come in, and we're letting it splotch on the canvas, right? And we're told not to worry about it. You're never really going to understand. They tell you that, well, you're not going to get it, you know. Yeah, not until you get to heaven. You'll have to ask Jesus that one. And you get told these things an awful lot when you're in church. There's a whole lot that you just don't know. Why does this happen? You're like a little kid, right? Going, why, Dad? Why does that? And you're going, yeah, you gotta ask your mother. And the problem is, it don't fit in the picture. Our painting mechanism is screaming, this ain't fitting. We get used to it, and we end up giving up trying to make it fit. We'll let it slide, right? So this is what is described as, we let those kind of things from that point on, where we get comfortable with it, we let it come in this ear, go out that ear. It's smoke. And we're getting used to it. All right? There's a fire somewhere, and alarms should be going off, but we're letting that smoke come in this nostril and go out the other, and it's not setting off our alarms no more. And we stay under this religious sort of teaching oftentimes for decades, 30, 40 years in church, sitting there, yeah, whatever, and you'll argue with people, yet there's so much smoke that you're not paying attention to no more. You've given up on, and you've just become accustomed to hearing a bunch of stuff and realizing that don't make sense. It don't fit into the canvas. One ear, out the other, and we're all conditioned, that we're brainwashed. So, like I said, some of us grow numb to the sound, and we really have exercised the muscle that allows airflow to go from this ear to that ear, right? It goes right through our head, don't even register. I was there. I did that. It was weird, too. I didn't realize how much I was doing, but I was in that place where I had an inferiority complex. I didn't feel smart. I wasn't smart at all. So I'd just go, you know what? I'm just not bright enough to know that stuff. And so I would just sit there and listen to them and try to figure out the way they were painting it, but it never really made sense. And I took the blame, you know. You got to learn to trust your own senses again. And you got to turn that alarm back on. And sometimes shit don't fit because shit don't fit. It's just, that's the truth. And you're sensing it, and that's good stuff. It's the information that you're hearing. It's not your picture. It's not you. It's the information. You're detecting it. That's a good thing. You got your antennas. Pull them things back out and start listening and asking questions. I feel like the disciples were like that a lot. They had a whole picture in their head. It was all Jewish religion, Jewish culture, Jewish everything. They would listen to the rabbis and all this time. And then Jesus comes along. the paint Jesus was slinging wasn't landing on their canvas at all. It was just, but they were following him. They believed somehow in him, but they finally came to the conclusion toward the end of his ministry that he was the Messiah. We already got that on lock, right? So we don't have a problem with that. So there's a lot of stuff to be afraid of when you don't have a clear picture of what life is trying to do. If it's mixed up with a little bit of God stuff and judgment and a little bit of heaven, a little bit of hell, and you're trying to figure out what's what and trying to judge everything, there's a lot to be afraid of in that type of scenario. And I don't want to be discouraging to people, but I actually want to, the people that are struggling more, I want to talk to you and I want to tell you, good for you. I'm serious. Good for you. Because, I mean, if you really, for those of you that hit the skids a lot, right, that kind of run on an edge and life feels pretty jacked up, it feels easy to call it quits. It feels really like you're on the edge, right? Let me say this to you as clear as I possibly can. You guys are in a better place than the people who think it's not going too bad. Yeah, I can do this. And those folks are the folks that really got problems because they've grown comfortable with paint just splotching up their canvas. Do you follow me? I mean, they still have issues, but they just don't sweat it, right? They've gotten really used to letting it slide. You just breeze right on by it now with zero discomfort. That's scary, actually. That ain't right. Those of you that spend more time worrying and then this isn't fitting, I need to figure this shit out. Better place. I love that. I want to highlight, I want to applaud you because I think you're in a better place than a lot of these people who look like they got it all taken care of, and they're pretty cool. They're in worse shape. They're in worse shape because it's kind of like what the Bible is talking about, the Laodicean church, where they're lukewarm. They're not killing it, but they're not worried either. They're just sort of, they're comfortable. We need to get our antennas back up. We need to start discerning when shit don't fit. We need to ask God to help us paint our canvas accurately, right? That we're just going to have to live with not knowing something. It's a false fact. Having it not quite fit. That doesn't quite fit. I guess I'm just going to be okay with it. No. Being told we need to dial it down, write it off, and sometimes our brains we're just going to let it slide, right? Ain't going to be picky about it. How many of us say that? Because some well-respected church leader or whoever told us we're just going to have to live with it. We let these authority figures, we hand them brushes and let them paint on our canvas and just screw it up, splotch it all up. It's a fucking mess by the time we get done with it. What we need is somehow we need to be able to clean off some of those old paint splotches, right? What we need is I keep picturing Bob Ross with the, we need to let Bob Ross come in here and really fix up our painting. The spiritual Bob Ross. I'm the spiritual Bob Ross, and we're gonna make some happy clouds right here. Let's make some happy clouds. Aren't those nice? The way Bob wouldn't he have been a great church leader? Bob talking all sweet and soft. He's at such peace with everything. Church leaders that talk soft, I don't trust. I don't trust them. I think they're scary because that's peace. Like it's a literal peace. They're very peaceful people, but that's not really peace. These people that talk really soft like that can really tell you a whole bunch of things that send paint in a nice slow manner, and it splotches up and just fucks up your painting so badly because they really don't know how to paint, right? But we've let them because they talk soft, speak into your life. And you got to be careful. It's got to make sense. Just because somebody's impressively soft-spoken or well-spoken, they can be well-spoken too. Never make us keep on going, not be real, but it's like, that's not real people, man. When I hang out with people every day of my life, and I'm 61, right? People don't act like that. That's not real. We need to be more real about our spirituality. And spirituality ain't this perfection, and it doesn't look like, it doesn't wear a suit, all right? Anyway, I'm going crazy. Another digression. Let me use my painting analogy even more. Christ needs to be our Bob Ross, though. But you need to understand it, that Christ painting on your isn't like, God, come down, and Christ is in you. But darkness can overshadow and discombobulate your perception of this life, so you see everything, adversarially. I think that's where evil really comes from. Evil comes from this having your perception warped and so twisted painting. You become predatory when you don't know the truth, and you really put into this, they're my enemy kind of a situation. Or if you've been taught in a religious way to think of heaven and hell and God is so judgy that you've fucked up so bad that you're going to go to hell on a bobsled anyway, you might as well take out a bunch of people on your way. I mean, you can get really messed up from having your... I'm really working the painting analogy, but it rings true, and it really comes down to our attachments and our perspectives. How attached are we to our earthly identity? How attached are we to our imperfect current perspective? That's huge. How attached are we to our current imperfect perspective? If we understand that everyone begins life not knowing shit, I mean, we don't know anything. We don't know who we are. We get taught everything. And we get taught an imperfect perspective initially. And we need to consider that we don't know where we're wrong, how to fix where we're wrong. We don't know what to do to correct it. We just need to get some humility and acknowledging that we have an imperfect picture going is our first step toward creating a better mental image. Does that make sense? We need to stop brushing off things that don't fit and address each and every one of those brushstrokes head on and ask questions. Start asking questions. Make a shelf of unanswered questions. That's what I used to do. I used to go, I don't know. I wonder what that's all about. It doesn't make sense to me right now. I'm going to not push it down because I'm ashamed of not knowing something. I'm going to highlight it. I don't know what that is, and I'm going to set that question up on a shelf. And God, I'm going to leave it up on that shelf, and I won't take it down until it gets answered. And I'm going to acknowledge that I've asked you that, and I've prayed, God, show me what that's all about, because I don't know what that's all about. And you don't know how many times that I've actually taken stuff off that shelf. Man, I asked God for that. Countless times that he has answered those questions for me. And that's how we learn. And the painting gets clearer, and the painting gets clearer. I still have stuff up on the shelf. I'm not telling you I got it all figured out, but I still got stuff on the shelf. You got to acknowledge openly and boisterously that you have questions. And that's how you remove your splotches. That's how you do some splotch removal, right? In that painting. Every struggle we have, every emotional struggle, we can attribute to a flaw in our painting. And many things we struggle with because we're working with a picture that doesn't fit our circumstances, so things coming at us don't really make that much sense. Our understanding based on our painting is judging these instances coming at us, right? And it freaks us out. And we foresee shit. Like, have you ever just worried about something that's happening in your future and you get all worried about it? That kind of fear is coming because you don't know what to expect, and based on what you know and the way you're painting and the way that might fit on here, you're expecting something scary possibly could happen. We expect the worst. Well, that's why you deal with anxieties, the way you judge it. based on your painting, based on your religious ideas, based on what you've been told, based on who you think God is, based on who you think you are in relation to Him. You're looking back at some of the stuff you've done, and it scares you. There is a whole lot of shame and a whole lot of things that we deal with, that we judge ourselves, fearing the future is being afraid of God's plan for us. If we don't think God is in control, we got a problem. You need to understand the picture and getting it more accurate. And if you want to try to correct some of these things, and the reasons why you need to correct, it's not so that you can be right and get in arguments, so that you can have a better picture, so that fear diminishes, anxieties diminish, shame diminishes, guilt diminishes. All these things come to you, and identity, all these things, power, the power to overcome a lot of life's negative forces. If you don't have a trustworthy picture, right, you can already, do I need to finish that? You can't trust what's happening in life. You can't have faith in it. You've been ignoring all these alarms all this time. And we never go in to check. It's like letting the smoke come up and you just, let your house burn down because you stopped smelling the smoke. You started ignoring it. The truth sets you free, not a fuzzy paint picture with holes, missing parts. That's not the truth. That's just crap. We can't believe in crap. It's, what's your faith? I have faith. But what is it? Describe it. No, that's crap. You believe in crap. You have faith in crap. Yeah, but I have faith. We need to believe in something that's true, right? Something clear, something I can see in my heart, and I know who I am. I know who God is. I did have a funky picture of who God is. He was this being outside of me like a master puppeteer. That's a funky idea of God. That isn't who God is. That's an Old Testament picture. But Jesus came along to paint a whole different picture. And He says, I'm in you and you're in me. Jesus came along and He helped us start painting a whole new picture of a whole new heaven and a whole new earth. And you need to step out of the old one you've been in and start stepping to this new one. And it does require a kind of a dying to the old and being born again into this new heaven and this new earth as a new creature in Christ, not outside of Him. Does that make sense? What I did in this is overworked. For entertainment's sake, I overworked the analogy. But for educational sake and for getting the ideas in your head, I hope I've made the point so that you can start seeing the mechanics of how faith actually comes along and helps you. And these are themes that I've touched on before. I've never really taken the time to really go through and explain. And so for the future videos that we're going to be doing and addressing stories, it's not for the sake of beating up on everyone who got the stories, wrong, because they were all taking them all literally. It's really for the sake of, you need to understand that they looked at it literally, and we need to look at it figuratively, spiritually, to help us spiritually understand who we are and get our painting set up. That's the importance of this thing. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. We got the AA shop going on Etsy, AA shop. We also have my book over here. That was a smooth move. See this book? I wrote it. And so it's pretty good too. And it'll show you through my religious understandings, through the various evolution of my religious upbringings, all the way up until I stopped going to church, and then I started putting it all together, and the picture started really getting formed in my mind a lot better. And I realized an entire worldview that was so different from what I learned in church. But I did get it from the Bible. I didn't abandon the Bible. Do you understand? So you people think I'm dissing on the Bible. I'm not. I'm just dissing on the way the church teaches the Bible, because it doesn't paint a good picture. At least the churches I've been around. So anyway, y'all, you know I love you. You know this is all cool, and you know what happens next, right? We lock this up. Double.